The Wild West was a hard time, a dangerous time. It was said that justice was offered at the point of a gun. In 1832, there was a law decreed that anyone that wanted to go ahead and occupy land, the Homestead Act, that they could go ahead and leave the United States, go out into the West, claim 1,600 acres of land. And if they could make that land prosperous in 5 years, that land is theirs. Two brothers decided to find their future wealth through their ranches. The older brother, Lyle, had his ranch on the Colorado River and raised horses. His younger brother, Tar, his family had a ranch right next by, and they raised cows. As they were building up their ranches, the wife of Tar, she was very lonely. Manta missed the city life. She missed just the cultured life. She couldn't go to plays. She couldn't go to musicals. She really got homesick, and she confided her woes to her best friend, the wife, Wendy, of Lyle. The first couple of months, she told her woes, complained privately, and her husband noticed that she was very unhappy. One afternoon, he took her to a very beautiful spot, scenic spot on the ranch. The trees were waving their gentle leaves in the breeze. It was a beautiful spot, very scenic. And he says, "Give me 5 years, Manta, give me 5 years. And I promise you that once we become wealthy in those 5 years, you will live a life of leisure and comfort. If I don't achieve it in 5 years, we'll move back to the city, if you'll only help me." She agreed. They continued to build the ranch. The first year was hard. The second year was hard. But the third year, they began to prosper and kind of learn the tricks of raising cattle. And the end of the third year, Tar invites Lyle and his wife to dinner. Manta bakes a wonderful roast and puts it on the table, and there's wine glasses. Lyle has always been a bit envious and jealous of the success of his younger brother. "Wine glasses, haha, you must be celebrating. We have," Tar says, 100 cows, and this spring, 400 calves will be added to that livestock. We have accomplished our goals. He hugs Manta. They're very happy. They continue their evening, and finally, at the end of the evening, Lyle tells the two of them, "Be careful, there's bear sightings around the areas. Livestock is being lost. Watch out for your cows." Some of the town people are so worried that they've actually created tracks on different paths leading to the lake. But don't worry, they're marked. Thank goodness a bear can't read. And at the end of the dinner, the Beaumont Sr. and Wendy go home, and life continues. A week later, Manta is preparing dinner, and there's a knock on the door. It is the foreman. "Mrs. Beaumont, your husband's horse came back without a rider. We've been branding cattle, and he's nowhere to be found. We've been looking for hours. Where were you located?" And she found out that they were near the special spot, the nice little canyon, the private area that they had met earlier 3 years ago. And she says, "I'll help you find him." They go looking around. They go to the special spot of 3 years past. They're going down a trail, and they find a trap. The ground has been dipped, and there's a pit. They find the pit, and in the pit is her husband's body, spiked. This was supposed to be identified. There's no markings to tell us there's a trap here. And she bawls of the loss of her husband. They take the body home, and As they take it home, they call the sheriff, he witnesses the death, and they bury the body. Next morning, Monta has gathered the bloody clothes of her husband. She wants to wash them and to burn them in a pyre in honor of her husband. She goes to the special place. She goes to the edge of the river. She's weeping, and as she places the clothes by the river edge, and tears fall from her cheeks onto the current of the river, she hears, Is the river singing? Is it moaning? And yet she felt comforted as if it was condolences to her death of a son, of her husband. As she puts the water into, the clothes into the water, long strands of blood seep and bleed from the material and go deep, deep, deep into the water, stretches until it becomes pink. As she's washing and crying, she wonders, I'm now alone, a widow, and my son has no father. Should I go back to the city? And then she remembers the beautiful sunrises. She remembers the gentle mooing of cows and how comforting it is. And she remembers the giggles of her son as he plays around in the front yard. She presses her hand on the wet mud and she says, I'll stay. The mud was cool, but then it warmed to her touch. She's surprised, but she continues to wash the clothes. Downriver, a half mile, or 3 figures riding horses, Lyle and Wendy Beaumont. And behind them, a banker, a very prestigious banker, from the city. In his pockets, he has gold, laying down the pockets. The gold that the 3 of them have conspired to buy the ranch of Monta at a very reduced price. The rancher is a very nervous, the banker is a very nervous fellow, and he says, are you sure that no one will know that your brother was murdered in the pit? No one will know, Lyle says. It's all been arranged. Before we dug that pit that killed my brother, my men and I went into the mountains. We captured a bear. We brought it back. And last night we killed it and took the carcass to the town. People labeled us as heroes. And also, Wendy says, I have been working on Monta, telling her, reminding her of all the pleasures of the city. And now, wouldn't she want to return home? And when I tell her today that maybe she's returned home, as you guys will tell her, her property is actually heavily in debt. It's not a prosperous ranch. Certainly she will want to sell the ranch at a reduced price, not have the obligations on her shoulder. She doesn't want her son to die the same death as her husband. They continue across the river. As they continue across the river, 3 whirlwinds begin to spin around each individual horse and rider. The banker, what's going on? What's going on? The horse is shifting nervously around the water, swirling around them. And the money, the gold pieces in his pockets become heavy and heavy and heavy, pulling tight onto his jacket. What is going on? What is going on? And the gold becomes heavier and heavier. And one side is so heavy as if it's a huge stone packed into his pocket. He lunges out of the saddle and falls into the water. Help, 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 help! Gloop, gloop, gloop. And he's gone. Wendy is in the middle. She's also having her own hard time with the horse because the horse is panicking because of the whirlpool of water circling. It first becomes pink, dark pink, light red, blood red. She can't say anything. She tries to cry out to Lyle, help, help, but her voice, and she can do nothing to let her husband know, I'm in trouble. She reaches her hand out, trying to reach her husband, and the wind begins to nibble at the flesh of her hand, just like lies will nibble at the integrity of a soul that lies. She whimpers in pain, and her hand dissolves into the breeze. She tries to slap her legs against the flanks of the horse to prod it forward, out of the river, and her legs dissolve into the water. And then her torso dissolves into the breeze. Lyle does not know about the death of the banker or the death of his wife. He is fighting his horse, trying to get the horse to cooperate, get it out of the river as the whirlwind circles. Pink, dark pink, light red, blood red. He's panicking. The horse lunges to try to get from under him, but he holds on tight. And then a short shaft of a stick, stabs him into the side. Another stick from downstream comes up. Stab, 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 like the teeth of the trap. Spikes, stab, Finally, a particularly large stick slams into his belly, knocks him off the horse. The three horses reach the other side of the river and are riderless. Half mile back up the river, Michelle is finished with her laundry of washing her husband's clothes. As she pulls away the cloth to take it home, a piece catches. She thinks it's a stick, but as she pulls it tight, she sees a gold piece in the material. And other gold pieces that she doesn't know came from the Banker Jones begins to rise from the mud. What is this from? She knows it's their property. Tar, did you put gold in the river? Were you worried about it floating downstream? Were you worried about sinking into the mud? But the gold coins are on the surface. Realizing that her husband's money can help her continue on with the prosperity of her ranch, she returns home. Thank you.